Claire Benson called police 7 nights in a row to say someone was standing outside her apartment. On the 8th night, she stopped calling. When officers finally broke in, the apartment was locked from the inside and Claire was gone. The first 911 call came in at 2:13 on a Monday morning. While most of Portland was under a cold rain that made the apartment windows look black. Claire Benson spoke softly, almost apologetically, as if she were embarrassed to be afraid. She told the dispatcher someone was standing outside her door in the hallway of the Marlowe Arms, an old brick building on Southeast Belmont with radiators that knocked at night and stairwells that smelled of damp wool. "Can you see them?" the dispatcher asked. "No," Claire said, "but I can hear them breathing." 2 officers arrived 18 minutes later. The hallway outside apartment 3B was empty. No footprints on the worn runner, no cigarette smell, no person hiding in the stairwell. Claire answered in blue scrubs, hair pinned badly, one hand pressed flat to her chest. She was 34, a night shift hospice nurse, recently divorced, known by neighbors mostly for carrying groceries upstairs without making eye contact. The officers checked the landing, basement, laundry room, and back exit. Nothing. They told Claire to call again if anything happened. She nodded too quickly, thanked them twice, and locked 3 deadbolts after they left. The next night, she called again. Same time, same story. By the 4th call, patrol officers had begun using the phrase possible mental health issue in their notes. It was not cruel, exactly. It was administrative. Claire had no visible injuries, no threatening messages, no ex-boyfriend violating a restraining order. Her neighbors denied hearing footsteps. The building's security camera in the lobby showed no stranger entering after midnight. One officer wrote that Claire appeared sleep-deprived and fearful. Another wrote, "Caller may be misinterpreting normal building noise." But Claire was not only afraid, she was ashamed of being afraid. That made her harder to believe. On Friday afternoon, Claire visited the hardware store 3 blocks away and bought a chain lock, a motion sensor light, and 2 small cameras that recorded to memory cards. The cashier later remembered her because she asked if the cameras could record sound. When he said yes, she looked relieved for half a second, then worse. That night, Claire left a voicemail for her sister, Rebecca, who lived in Tacoma. "If I sound crazy, I know," she said, "but I'm not hearing the building. Someone is waiting until I'm alone." There was a pause where the tape caught only the thin hum of her refrigerator. "I think he knows when I get home." Rebecca heard the message the next morning and called back 4 times. Claire did not answer. Police were sent for a welfare check at 11:40 a.m. The building manager opened the outer door. Apartment 3B was locked with the deadbolt, chain, and a chair wedged under the knob. Officers forced entry expecting to find Claire hurt inside. Instead, they found the apartment strangely intact. Her phone was charging on the kitchen counter. Her purse was on a chair. In the bedroom, her work uniform for the next shift had been laid across the bed. The window was shut and painted nearly sealed. The only obvious sign of panic was in the bathroom. On the mirror, written with a finger through steam that had long since dried, were 4 words: "I was right here." Detectives initially believed Claire had staged her disappearance. People do, especially under stress. But the problem was the cameras. One had been mounted above a bookshelf facing the front door. Both memory cards were still inside. The footage began 3 days before Claire vanished. For hours, it showed nothing but Claire moving through small routines, washing a bowl, folding socks, sitting at the table without eating. But every night, at almost the same time, the audio changed. A soft pressure appeared beneath the ordinary apartment sounds. Not a knock, not a step, a breath close to the door. At 2:13 on the final night, Claire entered frame holding a kitchen knife low against her thigh. She walked to the door and stared at it. The motion light under the chain lock flickered on, though no one was visible through the peephole. Claire whispered, "Please leave." Then came the voice. It was not outside the apartment. It came from behind her, somewhere inside the unit, low and calm. "Claire," it said, "don't make this ugly." For years afterward, that single sentence would be replayed by detectives, journalists, and strangers on the internet. The voice was male, middle-aged, and controlled. Claire froze in a way that made the footage almost unbearable. She did not scream, she did not run. She slowly turned her head toward the hallway, like a woman realizing the nightmare had never been at the door. The camera did not capture what she saw. It only recorded Claire backing out of frame, knife shaking in her hand. There was a brief struggle off-screen, a chair scraping, a muffled cry, glass breaking in the bathroom, then silence. At 3:02 a.m., the front door opened from the inside. A man wearing a dark raincoat stepped into the hallway, carrying Claire's laundry basket. His face never turned toward the bookshelf camera. He paused long enough to reset the chair under the knob from outside using a thin cord looped through the mail slot, then pulled the door shut. Detectives searched the building again. This time, they found an access panel at the back of Claire's bedroom closet. Behind it was a narrow maintenance crawl space connecting the old radiator lines between apartments. Dust covered most of the passage, except for a polished trail wide enough for knees and hands. Someone had been entering Claire's apartment without touching the front door, possibly for weeks. The tenant in 2B below her had moved out 2 months earlier. The unit remained vacant during renovations. The contractor assigned to the building, Thomas Vale, disappeared the same day Claire did. His van was later found near the Columbia River, wiped clean. Inside were plastic sheeting, a roll of duct tape, and a single blue button from Claire's scrub top. No body was ever found. No confirmed sighting of Thomas Vale was ever verified. The case became another segment on local news, then a podcast, then a cautionary tale passed between women who lived alone. Rebecca kept Claire's final voicemail for 11 years. She said she listened whenever she started to soften the memory, whenever she wanted to believe her sister had been paranoid. The worst part was not that Claire knew someone was watching her. The worst part was that everyone, even the police, had trained her to doubt the only instinct that might have saved her. Some warnings sound like fear until the evidence proves they were survival. If this story gave you chills, subscribe and turn on notifications. New stories drop every week, and the next nightmare is already waiting.